Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane, and I am delighted for the program today to be joined by Mike Mantic. Mike, thank you so much for agreeing to join us today.
My pleasure, Sarah. Great to be here.
Our topic for today, and I always ask my guests to choose the topic, is discovering your life's purpose. Mike, share just a little about yourself and why this is so important to you.
Yeah, thank you. When I was 13, I was hit by a car crossing the road, had a near-death experience. And what they often don't tell you about near-death experiences is that the majority of people who have them find it quite difficult to be in the world after that, because their whole perception of how they're meant to be in the world has changed. So for me, it's taken decades of searching and exploration and trial and error and all of that. And as that's unfolded, really seeing how we choose to come into this life, what we choose to come in to do. And it's given me a completely different perspective on purpose. And I feel like if we can accelerate people coming to that and understanding that of themselves, we'll be in a very different place very quickly.
And do you know what? I agree wholeheartedly. That's those traumas in our life that give us the experiences. And then for some people, they then require a second form of trauma to sort of to wake them up from how they've dealt with that, especially when things happen in childhood. And so you can spend so long sort of wondering why the heck you're here.
And there's so much misinformation. I mean, I saw a social media post from an old boss going on about what fun it is to be him because he's so rich and all of that, and how he gets to be genuinely him. And bless him, that's what he thinks. But it's built on this precipice, on this kind of like stacking of denial, rather than really diving into what he's unfolding in the world. And the opportunity that could be possible if you really understand that as early as possible, and then just direct your life toward that. And it seems like the universe is listening all the time. And when it sees people that are really living aligned with their purpose, or at least wanting to, it just becomes this infinite feedback loop of, here, now go do this, now go do that, and a path unfolds in front of you.
And it's amazing. I sort of know from sort of what's happened within my life that when I took that decision to finish something that absolutely was more than time it was finished, to let it go. And it wasn't easy because it was breaking up a marriage. Gratefully, no children, but it was still breaking up a marriage. And suddenly, and I know some people would say, but oh my God, your world fell to pieces. But actually it didn't. And I think it was Neil Donald Walsh or somebody like that who said, perhaps when everything is falling apart, it is falling together. Because at the time I walked out my marriage, within no time at all, we all got told that our company had been taken over by another company and we were all going to get made redundant. Yes. Sorry, I was working in insurance and I didn't like it at all. but that was a real gift to me, what was going on. And I wasn't in this space of understanding all of this at that point in time. But I can see with hindsight that everything that happened, it didn't happen all in one day, all in 1 week. You have to accept the fact that these things happen slowly. But I find myself moving from one town to another, sort of a couple of 100 miles apart, and sort of slowly my life totally changed and I started to find me. But it took my wake-up call and sort of 6 months of pain and sleepless nights to be so exhausted I couldn't be that people pleaser anymore. So it's what sharing these type of programs to help people realize you haven't got to wait for the wake-up call. If you can do it without it, it's a lot less painless.
Well, I really think that I mean, the whole thing with the lockdowns, like when that happened in 2020, I was in one of the most locked down places in the world. We were locked down for months and months and months. And I sat there and watched with interest. It didn't affect me that much because I was working from home anyway. But I was stunned to see the opportunities that came out of it, in context of how many people in the world suddenly had this time to think about what do they really want to do with their life, what do they not want to do any longer, really time to rethink. And it's occurred to me many times that we've probably, in the history of the planet, we've probably never had that level of time to really sit and contemplate what that means for us. Like, how do we want our lives to be? So I think there's huge change afoot, and those that have embraced it, like yourself, just that awakening to go, there's me. Now what, right? and then there's more. There's always more exploration to be done, but I just think that's a huge gift that that most people are never going to see again. Now's the time to really live into that opportunity and see what happens.
Oh, bring it back, bring lockdown back. No, seriously, it certainly didn't adversely affect me per se. My in-person business, that had to close for 2 years, which was sort of people coming to me. Got to the stage where I could go to them, but they couldn't come to me. Because of how my therapy room is laid up with so many soft furnishings. And that was just, you just couldn't have people coming in, not without either burning everything or trying to wash everything. And when you've got carpets and curtains and all the bedding on the couch, etc., it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, but what the bliss for me was the silence. Because if you live near any sort of road, and we've got quite a busy road at the side of us, and it was bliss. You open the window more at night. You open the window at night, and there was genuine silence. There was no traffic hum in the background. Went for a little wood, local, literally practically just over the road, and going for a walk in the woods. There's no background traffic hum. It was just the sounds of the woodland. And that's about, if I hadn't realized that listening was important before, it was the listening. Not just to each other, and that's truly listen to each other. And what's the saying? Listen to understand, not to reply. But it's the listening to the sounds around you. And because I work with sound energy, there are sounds that hurt and sounds that heal. And that time in nature, because we certainly were allowed to go out for walks. They encouraged everybody to get out for a walk every day if they could, because obviously getting out into the fresh air and the sunshine was really important for all of our health. But yes, as you said, it was a time of reflection for a lot of people. I think for a lot of us that do the type of thing that we do, it also helped us to connect so amazingly with other people around the world because of the technology that exists.
Yeah. It's one of those things too. I love that you brought up listening at that level, because it's one of the things that my wife and I both do with clients. Is it's like we hear what people are saying, but we're more listening to the energy behind it, and we're listening to what exists beyond what they're saying. And it's funny because people have said to me, in the past, oh, this terrible thing's happening and that terrible thing's happening. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Because what I'm listening for is actually they feel free all of a sudden, and it's like just that, oh, yeah, they when I point that out, they're like, yeah, yeah, right, you're right, and which is only a small part of, really working with people at that level. But it's just so interesting to tune into the energy of things rather than the actual words that they're saying. It makes a big difference.
It's hearing what's behind the words, and also understanding people's different perspectives and life experiences, and the fact that sort of a word for you that you're really happy and comfortable with could be a word that somebody else is really uncomfortable with because their sense of its meaning isn't something good for them. And I've I get this so often, sort of, and I know with my youngest sister, there's words she uses that she loves, I hate, and vice versa. Words I use that I'm really comfortable with and she's not. And it's opening up to ourselves, opening up to who we are and the experiences we've had. I think as an adult, it's can we understand maybe that a lot of things, there were circumstances outside of our control, our parents' control, sort of other people in our lives' control. They were just things that other people had control of. I mean, you obviously, I'm guessing, spent quite a lot of time in hospital.
Oh, because I got run over when I was 13. Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe a couple of weeks. That was
Right.
all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I spent 3 months in hospital around my first birthday. So the hospital thing, we've sort of, back then, parents weren't allowed to visit their children other than, it was meant to be once an hour, for an hour once every 2 days. For me, it was an hour once a week. That wasn't down to my parents. That was down to circumstances. And I think when we can look at things and think, okay, what were the circumstances behind things? And that can help us as an adult. We don't have to like or condone things that happened to us. But if we can come into a better understanding, then we can take away the bitterness, the hurt, the pain, the anger. That helps us to step more truly into ourselves. Because, okay, we've said this, the topic is discover your life's purpose. For me, I feel I've found my life purpose within my own healing journey, which a lot of people, I think, will find that, but not everybody. I think a lot of people say, well, what are you passionate about? What do you really enjoy? But how many of us do what we enjoy?
I actually think that that's completely misleading, because there's a couple of different things. The circumstances are the things that we often put in our own way in order to avoid getting to where we need to get to. And the thing about being passionate about something is that, from my perspective, that is one of it can be one of the biggest indicators of where you need to go, but it can also be one of the biggest things that leads you away from where you need to go. And what I mean by that is that lots of people get caught up in wanting to do something in particular with their life. Yeah, but as soon as it gets hard, they go, I don't want to be I'm not passionate about it anymore. It's hard. It feels wrong. I'm going to go off in some new direction. And so that can be one of those emotional things that becomes misleading. And where I find all of this comes down to, from my perspective, and this is looking at it, Sarah, from the point of view of a decade-long shamanic apprenticeship, probably 35 years of meditation and altered states of consciousness work, is that all of those emotional things, the what most people call love, hate, fear, sadness, all of that sort of stuff is the intelligence of the body. And so in that time, like before I started doing the shamanic stuff, I was doing deep tissue body work for postural realignment and that Stan Groff inspired breath work. And you know, a lot of it was all focused on healing. I've got this dysfunction and I've got that thing from my early childhood that and it just goes on and on and on and on. And there seems to be no end to it, because you can go into past lives, you can go into genetic history, you can go into, you know what I mean? Like there's just so much. And the biggest shift for me, particularly in the last probably 10 years, is just awakening to the fact that we have these very distinct sides of ourselves. It's like the body has its own intelligence and it has its own ways of convincing you that it's in charge, right? You talk about control, the body, oh my God, like the ego, the intelligence, all of that. And then we have these higher aspects to ourselves, you know, our soul, the part of us that intrinsically knows that we've been here before, that we're going to come back again, that we've been in other places. And the more I explore that, the more I come to this deep understanding that actually there's no healing to be done. There's just shifting into that higher space where we are coming from that place. And when we come from that place, all the other stuff falls away. It becomes irrelevant. And obviously there's going to be a fight, right? The ego is not going to lay down and take that. Do you know what I mean? But as long as we know that higher self, the flavor of that higher self, what it takes to get there, the more time we spend there, the more that becomes the source of people's power. And that's where the real wisdom is, you know, that's where the compassion is. That's where I strongly believe there's more and more empaths coming onto the world. And, you know, when you look at the way that is, it's like the edges of their personality are softer and softer, which means that they're set up to blend with other empaths, you know. And as that happens, global consciousness is going to have much more of a uniform effect, where we're less individuals and more, you know, just in the space of group love. And so to me, that's the real journey about healing, is just letting go of the notion that you have to do anything other than just connect with who you truly are at the highest level. And come to see that as who you really are. Explore that, express that, be informed by that, and everything changes.
And I love that people come at things from different perspectives and do things in different ways, because it speaks to different people. It really does. Because I work with the inner child, the pain and the trauma, the hurt, and it has made a huge difference in my life. Yes, there are layers of the onion. Things crop up and it's like, oh, I thought I dealt with all of that. But it doesn't matter. That's part, for me, that's all part of the journey. And I love that you've learned so much about different things, because for me, nothing is ever wasted. All of the different things I've learned and experienced, and it's just like, and I've brought aspects of those together to create a way of working and supporting people that it can't be done in one technique. And I appreciate, as I'm sure you do, that people will find the different things that work for them, but it's at different times. They will, so nothing is wasted. No one's going to work with one person only ever, because we all bring different energies and different experiences and different gifts. And so, yes, it is finding, and I understand what you're saying about passion being something that sort of can actually lead you away. But for me, that's also a way of saying, maybe that was something that was really important for me to learn at that point in time, that was part of my journey. Soul, the life of our soul. Why has our soul chosen to be here? What has our soul chosen for us to experience? And the traumas I went through as a child, I believe were a gift to myself from my soul. Because without those experiences, I couldn't be where I am doing what I'm doing. And that's what's important. So whether it's people that think the way I do, you do, or other people do, it doesn't matter. Go with the energies that speak to you. But it is listen to the heart, for me, which is connected to our soul. You know, you refer to higher consciousness. To me, that's what the soul is. I see it as through our heart rather than through our head. And it is about, because I genuinely believe the soul has chosen so much. Parents, you know, sort of siblings, we've all made agreements. The experiences that we've had, we've all made agreements for those experiences. So because our soul is here to experience. And that's what it's about. And we are meant to have fun, to laugh, to love. You know, sort of, they're meant to be the major parts of our life. And we seem to lose the fun and the laughter, that pleasure, that enjoyment, because the life of today seems to think it's got to be about work, it's got to be about earning money, it's got to be about this, but it's not the stuff that we're really here to experience.
No, I agree. I agree. You know, it's lovely that you raise the heart, because to me, one of the exercises that I do with people is really tuning into what is it that your heart wants to create. And the reason that I do that is because if you ask somebody, what do you want to do in the world? And then you go and ask them, what do you really not like about your life? You will find that those two things are a direct corollary, right? Like if somebody's poor, they'll go, oh, I want to make money, right? If somebody feels lonely, oh, I want to be in a relationship. Like they're always working with the opposite, right? And they're doing that to get away from the thing that they don't like. And the thing that seems to have no opposite is love. Yeah. And it's not, and I know what people are thinking, no, the opposite of love is hate. No, it's not. The opposite of hate is apathy, but there's nothing opposing love, right? It is just, that's what you are called toward. And it's beautiful to see when people really tap into that, the things that they create have a level of freedom to them that anything that works in opposition to something else is kind of bound by the parameters of the thing that they're going to get away from or wanting to get away from. But when you move into that space of love, all of a sudden the doors open and the happy breeze blows through, and you know, like the sun shines on you, and that same level of opposition disappears. So it is a perfect place to start.
No, I think, yeah, it's that it is so that opening up to yourself. And I think the sad part is that we aren't taught it is okay to love ourselves. Too many aren't taught. I'm not saying there's nobody out there, but too many, certainly within having been raised a Catholic and gone to sort of convents, you know, sort of just the one thing that you were not taught was to love yourself. And certainly as a woman, it's about everything that you do for everyone else. And from the era, obviously, that where I was raised in, for the men, it was about, you've got to go out, earn a living, and be able to be able to support your family. And that's not what life is about. Yes, there's huge aspects of that. We all have to earn money to keep a roof over our heads, clothes on our back, and food on our table. But it's almost as if we've gone too far with that. What else do we need? And I hate that word need, so I deliberately used it, because I feel that I need leaves you with the needing. As you were sort of saying, you're concentrating on sort of, I'd like to earn more money, but you're in that place of having very little. You're sort of, and it's that thing, you're putting that word need, that word want, and you're leaving yourself with the wanting and the needing, because rather than I'm choosing and I'm actually taking the action to go and help that happen, you're just saying, I want. And the universe doesn't recognize that, as it just, whatever you put after it, it leaves you with the wanting. So that I is extremely powerful. And it is thinking about the terminology we use within our lives, isn't it? To support us to choose and to make those things happen for ourselves.
Yeah, well, if when those words come up like that, what it's really doing is showing what your subconscious is focused on, right? It's like that picture of the iceberg that you always see, and this little tiny bit above the waterline is your conscious mind saying, I want this and I want that. But down here, the thing that it's trying to get away from is the fact that that's what it's truly focused on. That's what it's generating in your life, because that's what your intention is, and focus is aimed at. And the the beauty then for me of taking people into these expanded states of consciousness is seeing that none of that's really that relevant. That in actual fact, and I've seen this time and again, that when you're really aligned with the nature of your soul, right, the unfolding of your heart, the purity of who you truly are, that the universe seems to just line things up in ways that would be magical to others.
Yeah.
And yet it just does it to support that, because there's no opposite then. It's just a beautiful place, and love witnessing that in action. It's very difficult to be in it when it's not flowing. When you realize, okay, something's afoot here. I need to look at something else. And then yeah.
But there's also the universe also gives us downtime, space. It's time to sort of relax, to rest, to recharge, and we don't do that within our normal daily lives. If we give ourselves that time on a daily basis, which is why I like going out for my daily walks. Going out into the woods, it's my brain downtime.
Yeah.
So, it's that just being able to relax, walk away from everything for a short period of time, because you can come back recharged and you can achieve so much more. But it's encouraging people to know, it's something I've done for years. Even when I was working in an office, I would go out in my lunch break. I wouldn't sit at my desk during my lunch break. Maybe if it was really tipping it down with rain. But I tended to. I'm one of these people who has things like waterproof, so it doesn't stop me. And so it's really important that it doesn't have to be a walk. You could just go and sit in a quiet room. You can go and sit and have some music that's fun for you, or just relaxing for you. It's just giving yourself some of that me time, so that you are just connecting in with yourself and letting go of whatever else is going on around you in the world.
Yeah. Well, if we want to take that to another level as well, in terms of really lining up your day with what it is that your heart wants to create, it's creating a set of intentions that you take the time and honor every morning to do, and then let your intuition kind of work out, okay, how do we bridge where we are now to that, and that will change your day in magical ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't believe we've already been going half an hour. Mike, anything? I know. I think we've touched on an awful lot. Is there anything else that you'd sort of like to add to what we've said? And we will also share your sort of website so that folks can get in touch with you as well if they choose to.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Nothing in particular. I mean, I think the doing that is probably the most powerful place to start, is work out what's in your heart and then create those intentions for every morning, that you take the time to honor and go and work through. Take it seriously. It's like 5 or 10 minutes max in the morning. Yeah, and we can help people set that up. If they want to head to the website, that's cool. Yeah, I hope that helps people.
And the website is pathfinders.co.
It is.
Yeah. So sort of, and I will, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's underneath this, there should be a link to the website underneath the video. Mike, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's been a real pleasure. And for those of you that are sort of thinking about, hang on, this is usually done of an evening in the UK. Yeah, but Mike's in Australia. So it's the joy of technology. It's that sharing across the miles. So sort of, Mike, thank you so very much. And it is possible. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. We can connect at times that work for both of us. Next week we have a today's conversation, how mindfulness can help you in everyday life, with our guest, Craig Gilbert. So I hope you'll join us for that, and that will be again in the evening in the UK. Mike, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Take care, be safe, stay well. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.